Hey everyone, it's Austin and Marty, and today we're going to talk about destructive eating patterns. So things that might arise for during contest prep or off season, both male and female. We mainly want to talk about the precautionary side of things. Kind of let you guys, what are the signs? What are the signs to look for if something like this might be manifesting? Something, bad habits that you need to watch out for that could manifest into something a lot larger, like an eating disorder, where you might need to get some kind of treatment.
Absolutely.
So with that said, I think like we talked about before the show, one of the biggest things to point out here is that this isn't sex specific. This isn't gender specific. I mean, this happens with guys and with girls for sure. I mean, I think that with social media and just with the people's perception, we kind of think that it's mainly a female thing, because they might be a little more prone to the body dysmorphia side of things that could kind of manifest into some of these other issues. But really, it happens with guys. Maybe not just as often, but I mean, I would venture to say that it's probably pretty close because, in all reality, I mean, the only reason that we don't see it as much with men is just because we kind of joke about it. If a guy gets fat in the off season, they're like, oh, haha, whatever. I just got fat, blah, 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 blah. It's not a big deal. When maybe they were having some kind of binge eating cycle, and you just didn't know about it. And it happens a lot more than people think.
Oh, I couldn't possibly agree with you more there. Like, we'll say that the men's stuff is, we'll say, swept under the rug for exactly the reasons or if you were to just flat out go to websites, forums, and just go take a look around at the people asking questions, and you said this perfectly before we jumped on here, is that there's an embarrassment associated with it as a guy. And that could be either way. It could be up or down. If a guy is saying, yo, I am really struggling post-show with binge eating, and some of the answers, and I know you've seen this, Austin, it's not only dismissive, but man, it's flat out condescending, like what the F you mean, man, just smarten up, what are you, a girl? And it's just, oh man, and that's the last thing that a dude, let alone a girl, in that potential situation where the eating patterns will turn into potential bulimia from it, because now the guy, it's ongoing so long that he's been overeating, and now he feels terrible. Maybe he was something like a superstar men's physique guy, and then, because he's always used to being lean, and so, but then he can't get over the food, and then, oh yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely something that is almost ignored too much, period. Because yeah. I even told one of my clients, this is going to be a great way to lead this off. I told one of my clients to go look blogs. I said, go Google some blogs about post-show trauma or the effects of what the last 5 years of figure competing have had on me. Just some things like this. And she unfortunately didn't come back with much. Whereas when I was looking, I will give it 2014, 2015, they were everywhere. The whole figure ruined my life, or bikinis ruined my friendships, or something like that. And there was, I don't know if girls are not blogging as much, or if it's now, this is just my thought, maybe this is it now. It's so much more video and social media that you can, and you can't, and that's, I want to say the problem with potentially with Facebook and with Instagram is that when you Google something, you won't pop up Marty's terrible time after his prep. Do you know what I mean? Because before, everyone had a blog because there wasn't so much social media posting about it there, where it's good that it's there, but unless you follow the right people at the right time, you can't really, unless someone out there, let me ask this. If someone out there knows how I can search Instagram, Facebook for this kind of stuff, and I'm not talking about grabbing a support group or anything like that, but if you know how to search for any of these, or if you have a bunch of these articles where it's really good autobiographies of some girls telling their story, even men telling their story, please email me at marty@megamarty.com, post them in the comments. That would be fantastic.
And you pointed out, you made a really good point here about the forum thing. You talked about the men. So I think one of the issues is a lot of this stuff goes it just goes unnoticed or swept under the rug too, because people don't acknowledge it as such. You know what I mean? Like, you can't. This is the thing. You can have an eating disorder or some kind of destructive eating pattern without thinking you do, because you don't acknowledge it as such. I think that with the guys especially, they go on these big cheat binges or whatever, and they joke about it. Ha ha! I just had my cheat meals and it got crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I ate,
right.
And then they post it online, like they brag about how much crazy stuff they ate. When really, if you were to know what they were thinking and emotionally what was going on in the background, they, at some point in that, binge or whatever you want to call it, they probably thought to themselves, man, I really don't have much control of myself. This doesn't, this doesn't feel right. Like, I kind of know I'm really full physically, but mentally I just want to keep eating. And then they just, and they keep eating and eating and eating. And now there's memes about it. I don't eat till I'm full. I eat till I'm miserable type of thing. And it's like, well, I understand there's kind of a comedy component to that, but it's also when it starts happening repetitively and there's a pattern to it that is an issue. That's how eating disorders manifest. They're very much pattern driven. There's other things. Obviously, we do. So us as physique competitors, we have kind of the how I want to say this. We have kind of two things going against us. So not only do we have the psychological side of things, because I don't know, I probably mentioned it to you. Actually, psychology is what I minored in school. And I was actually able to take a class with a pretty good professor that he did a lot on eating disorders. So, and he specifically talked about people that are, have to have a certain look to their body and blah, 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 how we're really susceptible to it. So not only do we have that psychological part, but we also set ourselves up physically for problems. We also set ourselves up to, our hormones. We crash our hormones. We crash our hunger hormones. We have all of the, we're walking around in a super lean state all the time. So all of these things are, contributing to the issue. So now not only do we have a body that's starved and wants food, but we have a mind that's also starved.
Yeah, nailed it, right? Because I've seen that, like, memes will come up like the on the superficial level. I think everyone by now has seen, I don't know what type of dog it is. It's a pug or something where the dog is lying on the ground with his face down. It will say, "Leg day got me," or something like that. It's funny. It's like, haha, okay, yeah, leg days are hard. But then it will show something like, a trainer said, have one piece of pizza. And it shows this, pizza bigger than me and you, where they have one slice that's the size of me and you, right? And so it's just not... It's feeding into acceptance, and then, like, and I hope that the people listening to this don't go too far with it there, but then this is going to say, oh, well, now you guys don't promote balance. I'm like, well, no, that is swinging the pendulum completely in the opposite way, because now you're going from, we'll say, clean eating, or I know I don't like that term, but or going healthy eating or eating for your goals, right down to now you're going so far off your goals, but that's okay, I guess, or that's funny. I wouldn't even necessarily think that that's fit shaming. I think it's just more people are looking to get, let's say, acceptance out of it, or have someone say, no, that's okay. You know what I mean? Yeah, here and there, that's okay. Yeah, huge pizza, I get it. Whereas it's also the caveat is that you don't want to, in my opinion, have set cheat meals forever. Like there was, I forget where it was, one of the coaches, I don't know if it was Oscar Arden or if it was, who's Phil Heath's coach? I'm losing my mind right now. Who's Phil Heath's coach there, Austin? I forget him right now. I think it is Hanny Rambod. That's right. And he would have people go to the In-N-Out Burger. And that's, a way of, let's say, controlling cheat meals. But then in the off season, if you do that, then that's even more restrictive, which then can lead to thinking too much again into the food and things. It's just, it can control you. It's crazy you say that you took psychology as your minor. That was me too. Chemistry major, psychology minor. So at least we know a little bit here and there what we're talking about. That's great. But then, so where all that stuff can happen and where you can be preventative about that, that's kind of what we're going into, because we're not going to claim to be any kind of guys that can save you if you do have a diagnosed eating disorder. I know that term is a little bit pushed around too much, and I know quite a few coaches that have the Dunning-Kruger effect, which means that they feel they know more than what they actually do, which therefore would mean that they are thinking now, okay, I've helped some girls diet, and now I'm going to be able to cure them of their bulimia, of their anorexia. And I will flat out tell you, in my younger years, I had this exact problem. I've been doing my coaching now for 10 years, which is great. So that's you can appreciate how long ago that was. And
congrats.
Yeah, thanks, man. So she was not doing, or sorry, she came in, she said it, and I was like, you know what? I've got this. I'm a young man with everything else. I think I was 23. I'm 32 now, and I got this. I know what I'm talking about. And it went so far the wrong way that I needed that, because it was showing you don't have the exact skill set to help out someone in a clinical setting. So we'll definitely be saying that that's not kind of what we're trying to talk about here.
Yeah, and there's a legal component to that too. So we're not gonna, we won't go into that. We had that discussion before we started, but I like the word acceptance. That was probably the best thing that you said in there, as far as people not acknowledging that they have these problems. And like you said, the reason is they just accept it. They accept it as okay. And so to prevent that, we need to look at the patterns. Okay, so first off, I would actually say, I don't want to say contest prep, because I'd actually say probably post contest.
Sure.
It's hands down the worst period. And the reason is because now you have the physical issues from contest prep that have manifested, the downregulated hormones, slow metabolism. So you have just the hunger signaling, the hunger patterns to your brain are off. Your brain's hungry, even if your body is full, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, you're really susceptible to these kind of patterns, especially because you don't have a contest goal date in front of you. So now you are more likely to accept the issues, quote unquote, accept it. One time turns into 2 times, turns into daily, turns into multiple times a day even. That's when, like I said, you're getting into full-blown binge eating disorder. Mm-hmm. So, and then that's, like I said, like we said before the show, that's probably the most common, just because of the nature of what we're doing. But as far as the patterns go, for me, you definitely have to spot it right off the bat. So you have to accept what it is. If you have, and I encourage clients to do this too, if they have some kind of episode like that where they feel out of control, like they feel like they didn't have control at some point during their eating, I would like to know about it. Mm-hmm. I would like them to tell me about it, and not because I'm not gonna get pissed off at them. I'm not gonna yell at them or have them do 10 times the extra cardio or something as a corrective measure. But we need to figure out, okay, what was your situation? Let's look at your environment. Let's look at, what were you doing? Were you out with friends? Were you at home? Were you at a restaurant? What was the environment? Then we can maybe look at, okay, what was the food that you were eating? Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. Good. Yeah, Keep going. Yep, good. That's right.
Right. So let's see, what kind of food were you eating? Is this a potential trigger? And here's the thing. Like you mentioned, the balance thing. I don't want people to think that it's trying to say that we're not balanced, but to be completely honest, like, I have clients that there's just certain foods we have accepted just shouldn't be in their house.
Yep.
And you know what? They're okay with that. And they think, oh my gosh, I can't at first, I'm taking this out of my diet for, forever or whatever. It's the end of the world. Well, typically about a weekend, they really don't care because there's so many other damn foods in the world that, they adapt. And I'm not talking taking like, you know, certain free meal foods out, if it's like pizza or something, because we're not eating pizza on our regular daily diet.
That's right.
But, so it might be something, it could be something small. I mean, I've heard people binge eating all kinds of crazy shit. You just never know. I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah.
So something you wouldn't even necessarily think of. So now we have food. Now we have environment. Now maybe we can even look at some things like potentially, were there other things going on outside of that environment during your day? Hey, maybe are you stressed? Is your stress levels up? Have your sleep patterns been off? Had something in your life drastically changed? Did your schedule change?
Mm-hmm.
Or your meal timing? So we're looking at the environment thing's kind of a broad topic. What
That's
are some
right.
other things that you might look for?
Perfect example. So on my questionnaire, I always have my assessments that I do every week. At the bottom, it's the very last question, and it takes a little bit for I always say, listen, you don't need to open up fully and give me an essay. I say that the more details you can possibly give me, the more that it will go aha, and I'll be able to do a paint by numbers. And then if you give me more numbers, then I know better what the picture is, and I can go, oh, okay, you just painted a star, or okay, we're missing some clouds over there. So, and so it is. The more information gets, the better. Because not only that, but let's go with prep. Let's say if you're diving down into the dying hours of prep, and you won't necessarily have the self-awareness of what's going on. Like you could do this. Oh, by the way, and then I dropped off Jimmy at daycare, and they go, whoa. Okay, what was Jimmy at daycare? Well, all the other moms were talking about going out for wine later. They just brought their kids Subway or pick whatever it is that you really, really like, and then I'll go, there it was. And then and then I'll ask them, did you start thinking about the wine as soon as they left? They're like, oh my God, that was it. So the triggers could be literally anywhere, and it is reverse engineering, especially if they don't know, and they're probably not lying. And that's the thing. And just as a side note, as a coach, don't ever accuse your client of lying, even if they are. Just try to get around that. Like I know we probably have some coaches listening to this, but that was one of the tips that the late and great, no, he's not late, he's still alive, I still love this guy, but Eric Helms told me in person. He said, is always blame yourself. Like, so in terms of the coach, right? So if they say, oh yeah, I had wine, I had this, you can say, you know what? That's my fault. I should have said more, or should have explained to you more that this could have came up, blah, 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 blah. Because then, as soon as you demonize, I love that you said that, I don't put the client down. As soon as you do that, holy crap, the rift in between coach and client in terms of communication, in terms of trust, in terms of what they're going to share, that is it's like a snowball. It's like a snowball with the chasm. That's the snowball is going to come down fast and wreck. And now boom, you don't have a bridge. The client's over there, and now they're not going to want to tell you about anything in the future they've done wrong. And not only that, but that could push them towards doing it more because you were just an asshole to them. So I got lots that I can go in on this. It was great. I'll say one thing first on that is that I really do believe in some way, somehow, that the acceptance of the crap, like or that it's okay to binge or it's okay to cheat, was the first generation of the if it fits your macros fitness pros, or the especially the girls with these lightning fast metabolisms, or they're enhanced or whatever, is posting up donuts, like multiple donuts, saying like, had this at 3 p.m. And so regardless of what Austin and I will put in front of them in terms of a plan or whatever, they'll say, oh, well, fit chick 182 was eating donuts at lunch, and she's on prep. And it's like
bullshit. Probably was.
Yeah, and that's she either probably wasn't. It might have been a scheduled refeed day, and even if it was the fact that she did this, you aren't she. And so I kind of say, they're like, oh my God, then so it's education behind it too. I think education can really soothe the mind, and it's all about delivery on that one too. So for how you said that about how the issues arise, whatever, I do some pretty damn monstrous homework on clients, because I will say, what was your last prep right? Like, what was your prep before this like? If they haven't done a prep, okay, let's get down to some trigger foods. Let's get down to this. What do you eat? What's your bad foods? What's your good foods? And so, like, when you said that they need to keep the food out of the house, some of the classic ones out there, boys and girls, are peanut butter. That people do not seem to like. The tablespoon, yes, that's an actual measurement. There is a tablespoon. It's a 1 nbsp. That's not the bigger friggin' spoon in your cutlery rack. No, that is a spoon. That is not a tablespoon. Just because it goes on your damn table, it's not a tablespoon. Right. So there's that, right? And then I love that you mentioned balance, because I will flat out say, like, I used to try to dive away from this, I would say about 6 or more years ago, and say, no, we can make this balance, blah, blah, blah. Now I've completely changed that, because I do want to not only put forth even more truth, but I'll say, listen, for the next 6, 8, 10, depending upon the level of the client mentally and physically, this is unbalanced. And they go, oh, I say, yeah, don't you teach balance? I sure do. But now balance also can be you giving it for 8 weeks. You giving it for 10 weeks out of the 52. Because that's it. Do you want to win? Do you want to do this? And not only that, but then of course, I know that you do the same damn thing in terms of, listen, you're being coached by me. This is not my first rodeo. I know the signs. I know the psychology. I know the physiology. I know the biofeedback, is that we will not let you do this. And I don't care how pretentious that sounds, but that's how it's going to be. Because if you're a damn good coach, so many of your clients will not even get to that point. And if they do, it's like looking for a forest fire with friggin' hyper binoculars on that almost lock in when they see the flame and go, okay, there's the flame. Where exactly is it? Boom, water bomber. We're good. So it was crazy to see too. Is that all of that stuff that I said about where you could get that, like, what's your trigger foods? What's that? It can go all the way back, boys and girls. And thank gosh, I actually have she's training for her master's in psychology right now, and she helps me out. Like, yeah, I'll flat out say it. Like, I get some therapy done to help my own mental space be locked in and locked out, so that I can be able to help my clients more. But I will ask her questions about, hey, I've seen this. What do you think? And so then she will give me tools like that, either the way that they do psychological diagnosing or whatever. And if you ask a couple of them the questions, you can pick it out pretty damn good. So I didn't even know that about you, Austin, but that makes me so happy that you're minor, or you have an interest, in psychology, because that is this, man. Like, you could know everything about carb cycling, about when to do fasted cardio with which supplements, and how to do. But if you can't coach that client into feeling that way, and I've been using the term mindset less and less and less, but if you can't coach them into going, okay, this does feel good, I can do this, then you have a trainer, in my opinion. Trainer does things for you, coaches do things with you. So where I'm going with that is how much your childhood could affect this. I'll flat out tell you, Mom and Dad, I love you absolutely to the end of the earth and back, but when we were younger, fast food was a very common regular occurrence. Chips were a very common regular occurrence. My dad was a cheesemaker. Our crispers were full of cheese. I'm talking marble, talking cheddar. So it would always be nachos at night with so much cheese you couldn't see the nachos. So I was set up for disaster in terms of fat. Like, I was a very chunky young man, and it took being made fun of for being this way and getting terrible acne for me to really want to. That was kind of what the little bit of personal story there, but that's what kind of drove me into doing this, right? So our parents, well, it's not that they didn't love me, just why would they not know, right? Or comfort food, whatever. But just how those things will affect you way more than what you're thinking. So the reason why I wanted to say that is because when you say get the foods out of the house, absolutely, it's the first step. So for me, let's say it would be cheese. I don't even need to tell you that I had a cheese thing when I was younger, but if I say to you, yeah, cheese is it for me, and say, okay, Marty, just for the next 2 to 3 weeks, let's get rid of the cheese. And then this is going to be the big take-home thing for a lot of people, is that they, oh, man, now cheese is gone inside their head. Oh, man, but I love cheese. It's not gone forever. It's gone for right now, for our goal, for prep. I'm just using cheese as an example. If you want cheese, if you can use cheese in your prep, you do good with it. All the power to you. However, most people don't do super well with dairy. Cheese can constipate the living crap out of you, but crap and of course dairy. But so just giving you an example of how that you can not only reshape your mind, but that it's not gone forever. This is 8 weeks. You know that this is going to be okay, and that can also set you up, because I remind my boys and girls of that all the time, is that this is not forever in terms of this exact show. You will be able to see the cheese, you will be able to see the peanut butter or whatever. So just warp your brain around that. It's not it's not gone forever.
Yeah, and those things don't necessarily have to be gone forever. But you could find that you might not want them anymore. I mean, you might find that you don't crave them anymore. One of the biggest things I found with, if you have those eating patterns where you're constantly grabbing for that one particular food, I've found that if you can stop that behavior at least 1 or 2 times in its tracks, like in the midst of it happening, then you are like, wait a minute, now I'm in control.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm in control. I can do this. I'm okay. And it's got a very confidence building thing. Because I think too, people that get these kind of destructive eating patterns, especially like I said with the binge eating or with the certain things that they just can't seem to put down. Maybe it's the peanut butter, like you said. Once they conquer it a couple times, they're like, man, I'm in control now. It's like this food doesn't have control of me, and now they don't get anxiety when they walk into the kitchen and they know there's peanut butter in the fridge. I know that sounds silly, but people know, okay, this is what happened to me yesterday. This is what happened to me the day before and the day before, and they might even think about it for a couple hours leading up to it. They're like, oh man, I really hope I can control myself when I get to my house and I'm in the kitchen or whatever. And I know it does sound ridiculous, but that's absolutely how it happens. So they can, get that control. It's funny you mentioned the peanut butter thing too, because I wrote a Facebook post about this.
Oh, did you?
It wasn't recent. It was a while ago, but I actually did a little research on this. I'm like, okay, so why is it that peanut butter is it's such a culprit for these type of things? And I found that it actually has a chemical or a compound in it that it really disrupts your satiety signaling. So you could just keep eating it and your brain doesn't get that signal.
It's nicotine, isn't it? It's got nicotine in it. I knew it. There's sprinkling in it. Yeah. You see some headlines saying Skippy been caught with amount of nicotine.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny though, because I'm like, well, that makes sense. And then you notice that, I think all nut butters, it could happen with all nut butters, but at the same time, peanut butter is definitely the culprit. But I just thought that was kind of comical. I looked that up. I'm like, oh, okay. So there's some kind of science here.
Oh, absolutely right. And so then I will go. Still taking this. I like that we're taking this completely to the mind section of this, because I don't feel like we've been doing enough of this stuff. So this is going to be really cool, because I've got some tactics here that I willing to give out to everybody. But if we really look into either the simple pleasures, or we can even call them the guilty pleasures, is that whenever we are experiencing some form of pain, if we know it or not, and what I mean by this, it could be some form of emotional trauma. We could be experiencing, in a sense, trauma is a very strong term, but let's say it could be as minor as you've been at a job now for 4 years, and finally, things are not going the way you want. Maybe you didn't get that raise. You got some new coworkers, they suck, or the same ones suck even more. Whatever it is, that's why I love you said environment, right? Because that can mean so many frigging things. So it's not only going to come down to a point of you accepting that, at least for the time being. Like, I could go way in on that, but I won't in this podcast. We'll try it on another one. But is being okay with that, at least for now. So, for instance, it's even could be a mind shift, in a sense of going, how could I possibly let my coworkers /work throw me off my game? Because even saying something like that, it's like you can say, how dare they do that to me? Or you can say, how dare I let my mind and my heart be so affected that that's frigging up my goal? And that does come, like, and you can be tactful in how you say that to yourself or to clients or anything like that. But that is kind of what's going on. And to go, we'll say, full Buddha on you here, it's that we have the power, and only us have the power, to be able to let someone else's thoughts or opinions get to us. That's it. No one out there can possibly bother you unless it gets to you, right? So where I was going with that is that, so the guilty pleasures or the simple pleasures, usually they are sex, gambling, shopping, booze, drugs, and then of course food. So there's only 2 times that are in this. I used to say this in 2009, and I didn't know that there was either science coming out or there is science. It was around 2012-13 that I finally was exposed to it. I have to take a look to see if it was made before this or not. But there was science behind what I was thinking, which was that all eating in some way, some form, is emotional. Now, what I mean by that is that if you are doing well in the heart and in the head, things are going Austin and Marty's way, where things are looking up, you had a great off season or whatever, you are going to be more disposed to eating well. And what I mean, like, I will say healthy eating, you are, so cravings are going to go completely down. And I watch for this like a hawk on my people's assessments, because I'll ask them what their hunger levels are doing. Like, hey, it's getting worse. And then I'll potentially ask them, what would you like? And they're like, oh, just some more oatmeal. So I go, okay, they're right where I want them. But as soon as you dip into any flat-out junk, and this doesn't need, I don't mean like a nice juicy steak. I don't mean like you're wanting some yam fries. I'm talking about I want to go get a Kit Kat bar and Doritos and a full sugar pop. It's like, okay, so if you're doing that, then that's an almost guarantee that something is not, I don't want to say off because it sounds very accusational, but you should look into that. So the 2 times you can possibly have that kind of emotional eating in terms of you want to, you crave, we'll call it literal crap or junk, is either when you are flat out starving, which is why you see some competitors, let's say 3-4 weeks out, is that they're bottoming out, their hunger's at a 14 out of 10, and then they just go way off. Okay, you're now starved. It's like a starved animal will go and start eating humans because they need the food, right? They've looked everywhere else. Right. Now they're like, they're down and out. So your judgment gets clouded, just like it does there. You've heard diet brain, of course, everyone has. And then the only other time you will crave that crap is if something in your life is affecting you so badly, because what happens when you eat food or you go back to your childhood? For me, it's Skittles or Pop-Tarts or something like that, because you associate nothing but happiness with the Pop-Tarts and the Skittles. And funny enough, though, even though if let's say I binged and I ate 15 packs of Skittles and 40 boxes of Pop-Tarts and it makes me obese, I still won't associate it with bad, because when I feel good again, what do I crave? Those. So, and what I pay attention to as a coach is, and you can do this for yourself, you can do this for your other clients, is take a look to see if, A, you're starting to watch more things on the Food Network, to see if you're starting to gravitate towards more posts on social media about food, about like, because there's all these ones out there now that has shows like how to make Oreos into like a truffle, or how to make Reese's Pieces donuts with Oreo bits on top. So if you start watching all of that stuff, that's very akin to the peanut butter being in the house type of thing. Like that, and so you're like, oh my God, you start watching it. And then the final kind of caveat that I look at that tells me without words where my client potentially is at, is if they start sharing a lot of this stuff on Facebook. They start posting, or on Instagram. I'm not sorry, I should have said social media, but if you start posting about this, and they got, okay, now you're starting to think of is food. And then I'll ask them too, all right, listen, are you starting to dream about food? Because that means now we've either got to back off, potentially look into a refeed depending upon condition. But that is some warning flags that if something doesn't happen now, So the host is on fire, and if we don't get it out now, we let it burn a little bit longer, we may not. You're going down the wrong hole.
Yep. And if I see somebody posting something on Facebook with my clients, I normally stop them pretty quick.
You got it.
And not because I'm going to control what they post on social media. That's ridiculous. But just the simple fact that I'll just kind of maybe mention it in their update. Hey, everything going all right? Subtly. I might say it subtly, like I didn't see their post.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But yeah, I certainly bring that up. And at the end of the day, if it's a contest prep situation too, let's be real. I mean, you are competing. If you want to compete, that should be your focus, not what you're going to eat after the show.
Yeah. Go into that, please.
Yeah. And that's another thing that kind of sets up, that it really does set up that post-show behaviors, because if and I do this with myself too. I know that I competed twice last year. I had no idea where we were going out to eat until literally like after prejudging.
You got it.
Just because I was like, hey, what's around here? And I even said, hey, where do you guys want to go to? I'm a little crazy. Some people are be a little bit more choosy with it because they've been doing their prep or whatever. But at the same time, it wasn't a focus of mine. My focus was to get in shape for the damn show. I mean, that was the whole point.
Yep.
That was the point of the prep.
You got it.
Wasn't to, and I say that too. I said, hey, look, are you prepping because you want to reward yourself or whatever? I don't know if that's the right word for it. Reward yourself with food afterwards, or are you prepping for a competition because you want to compete and be your best? And what have you. So, yeah, I definitely try to shut down that behavior real quick, because if they kind of get into that behavior, it can escalate to crazy proportions. I mean, it could start out from just posting some food pics online to people having, 5 places mapped out after their show that they're going to hit in sequence, like a food marathon. And then it could literally turn into, I've seen some ridiculous stuff, people having like their bags and stuff loaded full of food and ready to go for after they, like the second they step off stage, and hell, half the promoters have donuts backstage for them already. And which is kind of a weird thing to me.
Did you ever see that famous video goes around? It's after one of the Olympias. I don't know when it is, but it shows Dexter Jackson, Phil Heath, Victor Martinez, and there's all the pizza there, and they're just going to town on the pizza, like putting it up, like. And here's the crazy thing. So now we're showing. Like, it doesn't say that the show's over. It doesn't. So here's the top tier bodybuilders scarfing down pizza. So outside of, that is comedic, it's cool that the promoter did that, but what is, like, let's say 100 people watch it, are 20, 30 going to go, oh, well, if Dexter Jackson did it, and look how he's the Blade, man, can I do that? So that's, right. and like, I know that the people that share it, it's so unintentional for that, right? But it's the stuff that we don't think about. In terms of
people don't think about
they don't think, and like, again, it's not their fault, but it's just because I was sent that, people like, what do you think about that? I'm like, I guarantee you that was after the show is completely and entirely done. They did not have a drop of that pizza before the show, and so they go, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off there. Keep going.
No, you're fine. You're 100% right. That was a good example. Yeah, because I've definitely seen that video floating around. But yeah, it's like I said, if you're doing that stuff pre-contest, or you're doing that stuff and if you're deep into some kind of fat loss phase, I highly suggest that you don't. That's to put it quite simply. I really don't think that there is any kind of benefit to that behavior, and most of the time it's just going to turn into a negative behavior. It's the whole jokingly setting up your eating marathon after the show can easily just turn into you just don't stop eating. Mm-hmm. It can easily turn into that, and then next thing you know, you say, oh, I'll get back on my plan next week, and then it's next month, and then you come to Marty and I 4 to 5 to 6 months after the show, and you've gained back 10 more pounds than you started the prep with, and you expect us to fix it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, like hold on, my magic wand is at the dry cleaners. It'll be about a week. Yeah, exactly. So I've got a story I will share about that, which is a perfect one. I'll say, hi, Jay, and if you listen to this, this is awesome. So my buddy Jay, who I also coached, was getting ready for a show, and he did well. We call it the curse of the eights. I think our first 2 shows together, this is when men's physique was really starting to get big. In his first show, he looked good. Second show, we had him in way better shape. And it was more of the being upset, and I think you know where I'm gonna go with this too. So he came in, he was looking super good. We made super amount of improvements on his back. His posing was way better. He finally smiled this time. That's right, Jay. I know you smile now. It's good, man. Anyways, so I remember I was waiting in the lobby after the show. And so there he was. He came out, and he had just a grocery bag. It was one of the white ones that you can't really see. It wasn't see-through. And I remember he put it on a table kind of in the back right-hand corner. He didn't really see me. And he whipped it out, and I'm pretty sure it was his mom's homemade brownies or something. And the dude just whipped out a fork and started going to town. And I think I probably finally spotted him about 2 or so minutes in. I walked over, and like so much of it was gone. I said, "Hey man, how you doing?" And he just didn't look at me barely, or just kind of looked up, did not bother to stop. It was like, "Hey man, like listen, like you can do this later. I get it. Probably upset right now. Probably hungry right now. Like let's take some photos here. Let's talk about this, right? Because if I hadn't saw that, it would have been, and then of course where I'm going with this is that I messed up on that. I did not catch. I'm not going to blame Jay at all for this, but I did not catch that potentially him not placing in the top 5 would have wrecked him, right? So then that's the other thing too, is that you and coach should definitely talk about this in terms of, what if you don't make top 5? I'm all about saying, you know what, you look amazing. You're like, man, these guys, you blowing these guys, whatever the heck you want to tell them. But you still got to say, hey, man, if you don't, place the way that we want, because I think there was 20 guys in the class, so we still looked awesome. Like for what is it in Alberta, the men's physique athletes just are friggin' awesome, shredded, look great, blah blah blah. But it was because it was the same placing, and he had improved so much. So this is just a case study. He improved so much that, and then he snapped, he broke, right? And so and that was my own fault. Even this was our second show together. I didn't catch that. Just to kind of update on that. So Jay took a year off. Came back, and now he placed second in men's classic. Looks amazing. Going to go on to try to get the pro card here next year. And that's even more of the fairy tale, is that you know what, you can not only can you come back from having some problems with the food, but you can improve, right? So like anyone's I'm doomed in this binging cycle. No. If you have the love of it, even if you don't have the love of it, you can. There's no. I'm never going to be able to get that crap out of your head. So, also, having said that, I kind of have a famous or notorious line I say around here, is that I've turned away more girls from competing than I've put people on stage. And because if I have them in, like, let's say the initial phases, whatever, I talk to them like, I struggle with bulimia in 2017. And then I did the show, and it's like flags. I don't know if anyone follows football listening, but like that was one flag number 1 goes on the play, and then you listen to another thing, then flag number 2 goes up. It's like, oh man. So having that chat, like, and I'm getting better and better at that chat. But having that chat, you're always going to come off, unfortunately, slightly like an asshole to some people, saying, "Oh, what do you mean I can compete?" It's like, because I am so damn worried about your mental and emotional health that I know if like. Prep is not a way to get rid of an eating disorder. That is all it's going to do is put a warm blanket around it, give it a cup of hot chocolate, and then probably inject it with heroin. So it's just going to encourage the living crap out of it, saying, "No, it's okay. This is going to diet you out of it." And no. What a bunch of crap. And so the reason too I mentioned the story about Jay is that I shared this to Austin before we went on here, but men and women are born with the exact same emotional intelligence and emotional capacity. So therefore, that's why we said that it's not always just women by any stretch, but and it's actually potentially more scary as a guy, because especially in North America here, what happens when we grow up as guys? You're told how to be men. You're told to man up. You're told to, oh man, it's girl stuff. Don't do that. But which can not only that, but if you shove something so far down, which could be emotions. I don't know if you watched The Simpsons or not, but Ned Flanders one day finally snapped and he lost it, because if you shove that stuff, your emotions and your thoughts way down, like, oh, I'm not going to be a binger, I'm a friggin' bodybuilder. This chick's oh man, that, because I like that Ned Flanders analogy, because when he did finally flip, there was years of stuff coming up. Like, for instance, I don't mean to pick on Jay, but let's say, you know, I'm gonna win this show. Like, I got it in my head. I don't need to tell anybody that like, if I don't win, that I'm gonna, you know, not be in the best place or whatever, and voila. So, and that's, like I said, half of my fault, but then that's just how powerful that is. So women are just way more apt to talk about it, which is fantastic, because if coach doesn't know, we don't know, and that's the caveat there, because if we can't help. Even though I know you're damn good at this too, Austin, is that we can pick it out. Like I said, the binoculars and looking at the forest fire, we can pick it out, but we're not. What do you call it? We're not at the Russian space station with being able to view anything at any time and watch you go, oh, there's what's going. Let alone watch your brain, right? I will say another thing too on that. When you said the rewards, okay, let's see if I can sum it up quickly. Is that, and this might get a lot of blowback, but we are not.
I hope it does.
I know, but it does, right? We are not we are not animals, and we don't get rewarded with food. So, like, because I know I have been all over the map. I've tried it out. I remember Scott Abel invented the term cheat meal in 1989. He regrets the crap out of it. He wished he had called it a spike meal, which makes a lot more sense. So then you can turn it. You can say free meal. You can say free day, meal of choice, and then of course I heard reward meal. So let's say you are starting out for your show. You are a year away. You're a smart person. You've been training in the gym for a while. You know that you don't know how your body's going to react. You link up with a coach or don't link up with a coach, whatever, and you've got six really good months of off season at least, and then 6 to whatever months of pre-contest. So let's say you have a free meal, cheat meal, whatever, once a week or so. So, let's say I'll completely take that back. Let's say you or your coach calls it a reward meal. So you trained hard, you worked hard. Every Friday, you get to go to wherever the hell you want, and you get a reward meal. What if those start getting as soon as those start being taken away, well, now are you not being rewarded for the hard work? Are you not dipping into the pleasure center in terms of did I piss off myself or piss off coach? Did I not get the results I was supposed to? Whereas no, there is outside of, like, and we know this, outside of the psychological parameters in the off season, where go out for the cheat meal so you can, you know, have a balanced life, all that kind of fun stuff. But then there's going to be periods of you just absolutely giving it. Let's say the body fat's not coming off the way you want. You don't need no damn reward meal, because not only that, but then that should turn into refeeds or anything like that when it actually has a physiological response. But that's why the rewards and things like that. And I love that you said, think about the damn show. Don't think about the damn after the show. And I know that you'll have people doing this too, whereas the regional show is June 15th, and they're already looking at July 7th's next level. And it's like, whoa, focus on the one there, because that also is looking into conceit too, and you can coach from there. But focus on the damn show in front of you. Not even the night after the show where there is the food. Because I've seen so many videos, and I'm gonna look it back up and send it to my girls here today. Of this, they have the stash, and these girls were putting the stash up on YouTube, saying so. I added to the stash today. I got my special limited edition Oreos. They're only available right now, and I'm 4 months out for my shows, but I had to buy them now in case they weren't around. Oh, and then I'll show you the rest of the stash. And this, like, if we were to add up some calories, I we 20, 30, 40,000, and there's no way they'd ever eat it, but that shows you as a coach, or shows you as a person, now that you're listening and aware of that, exactly where your mind and heart is at. You are thinking about things that aren't to do with the show, and I'll be flat out, straight up harsh, is that maybe you should rethink why you're doing the show.
And you know, the thing is too, you mentioned reward, and I've had people say that too. I would say I look right at them. I don't actually physically look at them because they're on the computer screen. But I would say, well, your reward is that you get lean. Your reward is that you do better in your competitions. Your reward is that you look better. Your reward is that maybe they're not a competitor. Your reward is that you're, and for non-competitors, you know, obviously this is going to vary a little bit because they might have more of those free meals.
Sure,
but anyhow, you know, it's still, your reward is that you're healthier. Your reward is that you feel better. Your reward is that, you know, whatever. I mean, there's so many other things that, and people are they're so food focused because it's such a big component of this. I mean, it's the biggest component of this. And then you obviously have, you know, the training component, which is obviously, it's equally as important, but usually maybe the training component doesn't quite cause the same amount of psychological issues, other than the ones that, well, I can't say that. Now I could segue into a whole nother episode of people that just chronically overtrain and undereat, and that's you know, that's a disorder within and of itself right there, pretty much. I mean, that's, you know, kind of get into that, people that need help with anorexia and things like that, they tend to overexercise, you know, so it's, but like I said, the reward is all of the things that you get out of following your plan, doing the things you're supposed to do. I mean, that's the reward. I mean, you want to get up and look at yourself and feel better about it and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and if results aren't coming as quick as you want, no, you don't want to offset your results and make it even harder by saying, you know, saying, screw it, I'm just going to eat. You know, because there's obviously people that have that mentality too, and you're really never going to get anywhere with that kind of mentality. But yeah, man, I think we really covered the basics of it pretty well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've I got, you know, I know we both could go way off on this one. Like this is the stuff that gets me super fired up. But I've got two final things to say about this to watch for, not only in yourself but also just to watch. You can, and the best thing here too, boys and girls, is look around you. Because I'll say that to my competitors and say, just look around you in terms of listen to other competitors. Like, if they're 12 weeks out saying, "Oh my God, I can't wait to eat that food post show," it's like 12 weeks out. So that will not only tell you that it's not that you guys think we're lying, but this is so very real. Like, we wouldn't have said any of this if it was just one case scenarios. Absolutely not. And I also want to be very, very clear in here, and I'm sure Austin can resonate with this with me, is that, don't get me wrong, I absolutely effing love food, okay? So this is not saying that Austin and I are angels 100% of the time, saying, oh, we scrape off the gluten on our bread and we have this perfect meal plan year round. Absolutely not. If anything, like I said with that personal story, is that I get cravings. I love food. So the way to flip this is that, again, I'll repeat, it's not forever. Like if you want to eat ultra hyper mega clean year round, that is fantastic, as long as it's not somehow taking a toll on you in terms of mental capacity. You're not saying no to all these events. That's actually getting to you. But if that's your thing, go for it, sister. Like, that's great. However, I kind of flip it when some people, and I had a conversation with a client the other day. I love this. This is the best. You picked the best friggin' topic this time, Austin.
Okay, there we go.
Exactly, right? Is that she said to me, this diet is so restrictive, and I always try to teach balance to myself, my children, everything else. And so her diet currently, we are competing in 11 weeks. She has options, like not. It's kind of my own weird version of if it fits your macros. So basically, I will give them the macro. However, I will say here, so 30 carbs, let's say per meal. I'll say here are your current options for the 30 carbs, and I might have about 7 to 8 to 10, depending upon their digestion, depending upon feedback. And then the same thing with protein. I'll say here's 20 grams of protein. Here's your options for them. And she said, this diet is too restrictive, or it's so restrictive. And I said, I think I want to show you a restrictive plan. And so then I brought up where coaches have given, and I've even done this in the last 2 weeks, even the last week, I make it so brain dead and so set, but where and I gave the classic example of it's 4 ounces of tilapia with 3 to 6 spears of asparagus with maybe half a cup of oatmeal. And that's written in there, no substitutions for 5 meals a day. The last 3 are without the carbs. And she said, people do that? And I said, oh, do they? And then not only that, do they do that, but they can do that for the full 16 weeks. And she said, oh my God. So, yeah. And not only that, but I said, okay, let's say let's say you are 100% right. I'm not trying to alter your definition of restriction. I say, but let's say you believe this is restrictive. I also want you to know this is not forever. This is your choices. And because she even said that, I'm scared that I'll have to eat like this the rest of my life. And I said, no. You have a goal. And I used the school analogy. I say, when you are in school and you have 3 months left, do you not think you're going to put more than usual time into studying, more than usual time into school, more than usual? Is that unbalanced? And she said, yes. I said, exactly. You have periods of unbalance. And I also gave the analogy of if you are dirt poor, right now you have loans to come out, your car broke down, you just had to buy. Now, are you spending as much money as you were before? No. But now, would you love to go buy a new pair of shoes every weekend like you used to? But you had some setbacks. That is, your life is now unbalanced. In the whole, light bulbs went off. She was like, "Oh my God!" And so she, not only between giving her the diet, but giving her the analogies that really friggin' helped her. And then the last thing that I'll say on that, and I say this to so many people, and this has helped so much, is that they'll say, "I have to eat this," or "My coach told me to eat this," or whatever. Which is true, but then I say, you know what? You can have whatever you want at any given moment. And they go, what, really? And I say, yeah. I'm just telling you what to eat for your goals. I'm not telling you. You want to go. You want to go eat. You want to go eat the Big Mac. You want to go do. Then you go do it. But please don't get upset at me if your goals don't go in line. So, and even that, just knowing that they have the choice to do that. I'm talking outside of the 6 to 10. Carb options I gave. I'm like, no, I said, you can eat anything you want right now. But if this is your goal, this is what we're doing. And so then, in closing with that too, they'll say, well, what do you do mind frame when you get down or whatever? I say, well, once I've assessed my kind of emotional status and all that kind of fun stuff, I know if I have that show date, photo shoot date, whatever, I say to myself, I don't want to look back and say, if only I had of, and I'm talking, if only I hadn't eaten that donut, or if only I hadn't cut out on cardio 10 minutes early for that 2 weeks. Like, if only, and this is talking entirely and purely of you showing up in the best friggin' possible condition, is that not only that, but to waste your time, not waste is a strong term, but to waste your time, to misuse your coach's time, and then to show up with a suboptimal performance on something that is entirely judged on subjection and upon how you look and upon what you've done in those previous weeks. That's the ticket for me, is just don't look back. Like, this is not forever. Just don't look back and say, damn, if only I had of.
Yep. I like what you said about you do have options. It's always your choice. I do the same thing to people. I say those same things. It always throws people off. They're like, wait a minute, why would you say something like that? Because, in reality, I'm not your parent.
No, that's right.
I'm not.
Yeah.
Or whatever, an adult.
Yeah, you hired me, so it's up to you. Like, it's entirely up to you. Like, and so, I want something more set. I'm like, yes, this is what you have a meal plan. This is it. Like, And then I use the school analogy again. It's like outside of, and I will, of course, get a hold, like let's say I haven't heard from a client in 2 weeks and we have a weekly check-in, and especially if the show's coming, like, hey, how's it going? Blah, 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 blah. Not demonizing, but hey, how's it going? Oh, da, 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 da. It's like, okay, well that's cool, but just it's you just don't you don't want to be looking back with that, and also then I don't think that anyone on the planet outside of the bank, like let's say you haven't paid your credit card, they're going to come after you. But a teacher in university is not going to come knocking on your door at your dorm saying, hey, how come you're not in class? That's up to you. You got to go learn.
Yeah, that teacher doesn't, and they're not going to say anything to you.
No,
I mean, they might say something to you once, but beyond that point, it's not really their job. Their job is to give instruction.
No, and I think that's one of the lessons we kind of miss outside of high school. Like high school, because then they're going to call your parents, be like, hey, Austin screwed off for the 17th time this week. He's been missing every period. Just to let you know he's going to fail, and then the parents come whoop your ass. But once you're in university, that's all on you. You don't want to show up, they will just tell you in an email, by the way, you failed the course now. Oh, right? So it's just, there's just some ideas, some mind frame things, some mindset things that you can think about to kind of, all of this is just prevention. This is knowing how to recognize some signs. This is just a whole bunch of things that you can now take and we'll say audit your own prep, audit your own thinking, audit your own heart, and go, oh, okay. And I hope quite a bit of this dealt into that, because man, I think that was it.
Yep, you nailed it. I like those closing statements. They were perfect. I echo all of that. So
awesome, man. That's what I want to hear. All right,
I won't blab anymore.
Okay. Well then, from Marty and Austin at the Mind Body Broadcast, thanks for listening.